So we all know that bullying still exists. As much as we'd like it to not exist anymore, it does. It exists in elementary to middle to high school and in the workplace and on sports teams. We all know this. And no matter the zero tolerance policies that workplaces, schools, and sports teams have on it, it's still happening. And now that technology is rising, it's happening in school and at home. Where before technology, being at home used to be a safe space and you could get away from it. Now you're at school getting bullied, and then you're getting bullied through a screen at home. And considering this, we've all been taught that bullying is one of the lead factors to suicide. And so knowing that, why do we still bully? And it doesn't make sense. But what do the experts and researchers have to say about it? How does this affect people's emotional and mental health? Well, today I'll be talking about the positive and negative effects on bullying on people's mental and emotional health. First, we'll affect the positive effects of bullying on people's mental health. First is people who have been bullied are able to spot situations of other people being bullied. And at first you might say, well, that's not very good, but it is, because then they know how to deal with the situation. They know if they should de-escalate it right away or if they should wait for the bully to leave and then comfort the victim. They also can turn negative emotions into positive emotions, such as motivation and power to get something done. This is like if someone bullies you and tells you you can't do that, you harness that negative feelings and then they can turn it into a positive feeling of motivation and power to get it done. But on the other side, we have negative effects of bullying on people's mental health. First, there's an increased risk of just future health problems in general. People are more likely to be diagnosed with depression, anxiety, stuff like that, and they'll have a higher risk of social problems. They won't be able to read social situations very well, and they're just more likely to misread social cues. They also, if people don't have a good emotional competence, which is just having good relationships with family and friends or just other people in general, they are at higher risk for mental instability. So this comes back to the more likely to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And all the negative effects came from a peer-reviewed article called Cyberbullying, Victimization, and Adolescent Mental Health. And all the positive effects came from a personal blog of someone who had been bullied called The Positive Effects of Bullying. Now we'll talk about the positive effects of bullying emotionally on people. Bullying victims are more likely to become resilient. And this is a better than expected reaction because they have been bullied. So to kind of explain is, victims who had been bullied are more likely to be able to bounce back from setbacks, if that makes sense. So they're just able to go with the flow, and if a roadblock comes up, they're easier to find a way around it. They can also, if victims have a warm and welcoming atmosphere in their friend groups and at home, it acts as a buffer of all the negative feelings and associations with bullying. And that came from families promote emotional and behavioral resilience to bullying, evidence of an environmental effect. Now, the negative effects of bullying emotionally are that victims may lack skills in emotional regulation, which means they won't know how to process different emotions appropriately. So like, if they're angry, they might just lash out and start fighting instead of being able to control themselves and not punch someone. Also, this means that victims of bullying won't be able to cope properly with their emotions. So if they're sad, maybe instead of like holding it in and just not doing anything, they might turn their sadness into anger. And instead of being sad and just kind of holding it in, they're gonna lash out. And that came from emotional regulation and displaying classroom victims of bullying, characteristics, expressions of affect, coping styles, and relevant contextual factors, which is also another peer-reviewed article. To conclude, I've addressed the positive and negative effects on mental and emotional health of bullying. And although bullying is never acceptable and we should continue to implement zero tolerance policies, if someone has a good, warm, welcoming environment around them and a great support system, they're more likely to become one of those resilient children who are able to bounce back from everything. But if they don't, they're more likely to suffer in the future from mental and emotional and physical health problems, and they won't be able to read social cues, and they'll just mostly suffer in general in the future. Thank you.